If you ever want proof that the World Cup is the greatest show on earth, consider this. It's the only sporting event where millions of people from different countries, languages, and time zones can all watch the same moment and instantly agree on one sentence. Did he just bite him? Tonight, we rewind to Brazil 2014, Uruguay versus Italy. 90 minutes of tension, sweat, and tactical wrestling, interrupted by an incident so strange it briefly united football fans, non-football fans, dentists, and vampire movie directors into one global reaction: absolute disbelief. And yes, it was again. To understand why this became more than just a foul, more than just a scandal, you have to understand the setting, the pressure, the history, and the uncomfortable fact that this wasn't a one-time glitch in the system. It was a sequel, then a trilogy, on the biggest stage of all. So here's what happened, what came before it, what came after it, and why. Heading into the next World Cup, the sport has basically installed extra cameras, extra rules, and extra common sense to make sure nobody decides to play football with their teeth ever again. The date was June 24, 2014. The place, Natal, Brazil, inside Arena des, one of those World Cup stadiums that looks futuristic enough to host a match, a concert, and a spaceship launch all in the same evening. The occasion was not casual. This wasn't nice friendly in the sunshine. This was Group D, the group that felt designed by a screenwriter who enjoys stress. Uruguay and Italy both needed a result to advance. Lose and your suitcase gets heavier. Win and you live another day. Italy arrived with pride, defensive discipline, and an experienced center-back famous for playing the kind of physical football that makes opposing strikers feel like they've been in a minor car accident by halftime. Uruguay arrived with grit, tradition, and one of the most gifted strikers of his generation, the kind of player who can turn half a chance into a goal and sometimes turn a shoulder into a headline. For much of the match, it was exactly what you'd expect from two teams with everything on the line: tight, scrappy, tense. The kind of game where chances don't flow, they drip. The kind where every corner kick feels like a national referendum. Then the game tilted. In the second half, Italy's was shown a red card 59-minute, leaving Italy with 10 men. That meant Uruguay smelled blood in the water. Which, in retrospect, is the most unfortunate phrase possible. With Italy down a man, Uruguay pushed harder. The pressure built. Players battled for space in the box like it was the last square foot of land on Earth. Shirts were tugged. Arms were out. Bodies collided. It was messy, but still within the normal category of football chaos. And then we arrived at the moment that changed the match's legacy forever. Around the 79th minute, entangled in the penalty area, they were jostling normal, leaning normal, grappling normal, then moved in close. His reaction was immediate and unmistakable. He recoiled and grabbed his shoulder with the urgency of a man who just discovered that personal boundaries are, in fact, real. He looked at the referee with the expression that translates universally as, "Sir, sir, you are not going to believe this." And then, because football is the only workplace where evidence is sometimes presented by dramatically lowering your shirt in front of a crowd, pulled down his jersey to show what appeared to be bite marks on his shoulder. Not a scratch, not a bruise, not "he elbowed me," bite marks. At home, viewers leaned forward toward their screens in synchronized confusion, like the whole planet had become one big confused golden retriever tilting its head. The referee did not issue a card in that moment. Play continued. Italy protested. Uruguay protested the protests. Everyone protested something. The match went on with the weird energy of a party after somebody spilled a drink and everyone's pretending it's fine. And 2 minutes later, 81 minute, Uruguay scored, headed in from a corner. Uruguay went up 1-0. That ended up being the final score. Uruguay advanced, Italy went home. But the result became background noise, because the real story had already happened, and it had teeth. Now let's be precise about what happened, because this is where the football world shifted from "that looked odd" to "we are definitely not imagining this." Video, photos, and shoulder all supported the conclusion that bit. The broadcast replays became the world's most uncomfortable slow-motion film study. Analysts who normally break down passing angles suddenly found themselves breaking down jaw angles. And the reason it exploded instantly is simple. People weren't reacting only to one incident. They were reacting to the fact that they had seen this movie before. Had a history. Back in 2010, while playing for Ajax, was punished after biting during a match. Then in 2013, while at Liverpool, bit Chelsea defender, earning a significant ban in England. So when the 2014 World Cup incident happened, it wasn't treated like a strange first-time mistake. It was treated like the third episode in a series that absolutely did not need a third episode. Football has always had its villains, its hotheads, its masters of the dark arts. But biting sits in a category of its own because it is so far outside the sport's normal rule-book behavior that it triggers a unique kind of outrage. A bad tackle can be argued, a handball can be debated, even a dive can be shrugged off with a resigned sigh. But biting makes everyone pause and go, are we still playing football, or did we accidentally switch to a wildlife documentary? That's why the reaction was immediate and global. Within minutes, the incident was everywhere. Social media turned into a live comedy club with one topic. Memes spread faster than a counterattack. People who hadn't watched a minute of the World Cup suddenly knew exactly who was, because nothing introduces you to a player quite like the phrase, "he bit someone." And the jokes wrote themselves. Dracula references, shark jokes, Hannibal jokes, Italian cuisine jokes. He's just trying the jokes. The world's comedians didn't even have to work that day, had basically done the brainstorming for them. But while the internet did what the internet does, FIFA had a tournament to protect. Because the World Cup isn't just sport, it's a global product. It sponsors, broadcasts, image, reputation. And an incident like this, something that feels more like a schoolyard fight than elite sport, forces the authorities to respond decisively. Even though the referee didn't punish it during the match, FIFA's disciplinary process allows review after the fact, especially for serious incidents that may have been missed in real time. 2 days later, FIFA delivered the hammer. Was banned for 9 international matches. He was also suspended for 4 months from all football-related activity. Not just you can't play. It was broader. No training with his club, no being around matches, no stadium attendance for games, football exile at the most painful possible time. He was also fined, reported at 100,000 Swiss francs, and he was effectively removed from the tournament. Uruguay had advanced, but their star striker was done. It was a massive punishment, and it told the world something important. This wasn't being treated as gamesmanship or a little incident. It was violent conduct, and it was being dealt with like violent conduct. Later apologized publicly, expressing regret and acknowledging the situation. Interestingly, later suggested at times that the punishment felt excessive, adding nuance to the story. But that nuance didn't erase what the camera showed, and it didn't erase what his shoulder showed. And this is where the narrative around gets complicated, because has always been complicated. As a footballer, he's undeniable, technically brilliant, instinctive, relentless. The kind of striker defenders hate because he never stops looking for a weakness. He doesn't just score, he prowls. But he's also spent parts of his career dragging a cloud of controversy behind him. The biting incidents became the loudest, but they weren't the only reason people argued about him. There was also the 2010 World Cup handball against Ghana, when deliberately handled a goal-bound shot on the line in extra time, got sent off. Ghana missed the penalty and Uruguay ultimately advanced. Some called it cynical, some called it smart, some called it unforgivable, but everyone called it memorable. The football world has always been stuck in a tug-of-war between admiration and disbelief. He could produce genius and chaos in the same tournament, sometimes in the same week, sometimes, apparently, in the same mouthful of time. After the 2014 incident, Uruguay had to continue without him. They reached the round of 16 but lost to Colombia. In pure football terms, missing a world-class striker matters. In public relations terms, the team spent the rest of the tournament answering questions about something that sounded like a rumor you'd hear in a school cafeteria. And the referee question never really went away. How could something like this happen and not be punished on the spot? The simplest answer is, football is crowded and fast, and referees are human. In the penalty area, you have bodies blocking and constant contact. In 2014, there was no VAR system like the one we know today. The game couldn't stop for a slow-motion investigation on a pitch-side screen because that infrastructure wasn't part of the World Cup yet. So the moment lived in that old-school football space. If the referee misses it live, the match result stands and discipline comes later. And in this case, discipline came later, hard. Now let's talk about the strange afterlife of the bite, because that's what made it legendary. Some football controversies fade because they're complicated. This one didn't fade because it was painfully simple to describe. You could explain it to someone who doesn't know football in one sentence. A player bit another player in the World Cup. No knowledge of formations required. No understanding of offside needed. You don't need to know what a double pivot is to understand that teeth are not part of the tactical plan. So it became a permanent reference point. Every time got into a confrontation, every time he argued with a defender, every time he even looked like he was leaning in too close, the world made the same joke again. And opponents knew it, fans knew it, broadcasters knew it. It became the kind of thing that follows you, not just through one tournament but through your whole career, because sports fans have long memories for goals and even longer memories for the absurd, and kept playing at the highest level. After 2014, he went on to have enormous success, especially at Barcelona, where he was part of an era-defining attack and won major trophies while continuing to score at elite rates. He later won a league title with Madrid. In more recent years, he played in the United States for Inter Miami, turning his career into a kind of global tour of high-level football and high-level nostalgia. For Uruguay, he remained a towering figure for years, becoming the national team's all-time leading scorer and one of the most important players of his generation. He retired from international football in 2024, closing a chapter that contained brilliance, heartbreak, controversy, and because history is what it is, that infamous moment in 2014. So what does that moment mean now? It means a few things, depending on who you ask. For some, it's a stain that can't be scrubbed away, because it crossed a basic line of sporting conduct. For others, it's the ultimate symbol of an athlete whose competitive intensity sometimes boiled over into self-destruction. And for the internet, it's eternal content, one of those World Cup clips that will be replayed forever, right next to other unforgettable moments like 2006 headbutt and hand of God. The bite sits in that special World Cup museum of scenes everyone remembers even if they forget the. And now, with the next World Cup approaching, here's the little news part you asked for. Because the sport is moving forward, and the tournament is about to get bigger than ever. The next FIFA World Cup is in 2026, hosted across 3 countries: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It will be the first men's World Cup with 48 teams, expanding the tournament. More matches, more squads, more storylines, more chances for underdogs to break hearts and for giants to panic early. It's also a different era of officiating and surveillance. Modern tournaments are packed with cameras, angles, slow-motion replays, and VAR review. In 2014, an incident could happen and escape real-time punishment. In 2026, if somebody so much as thinks about doing something outrageous, there will be 12 camera angles, a zoom lens, and a former referee on television saying, "You see here, that is, unfortunately, teeth." So if there's one prediction we can safely make for 2026, it's this: any attempted bite will not only be spotted, it will be rendered in high definition, analyzed in ultra-slow motion, and discussed by a studio panel that will somehow keep a straight face while saying the words clear and obvious. And for teams like Uruguay, 2026 will likely represent a new chapter, shaped by the next generation stepping further into the spotlight. For the tournament overall, it will be a celebration of football on a massive scale across North America: huge crowds, huge venues, and a format that creates even more opportunities for chaos. The good kind of chaos, ideally. The kind involving late goals, surprise runs, and heroic saves. Not the kind involving a shoulder, a set of teeth, and a defender looking at the referee like he's trying to report a crime in the middle of open play. Because the real legacy of the bite isn't just that it was shocking. It's that it proved, once and for all, that the World Cup can turn anything, into a global moment. A tournament designed to showcase the world's best skills accidentally became the world's strangest public service announcement. Compete hard, play fair, keep your hands to yourself. And whatever you do, no matter how tense the match gets, no matter how physical the defender is, no matter how dramatic the moment feels, remember that football is played with your feet, not your mouth.